Three, two, one.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of B-Hawk Live. Yes, I'm sorry, it's not dirty. Sorry, he's not here. He already made that decision that he said he was going. But real talk. I gotta say this before I bring on Mr. Eddie P. Is that my guy? Been doing this for so long, 5 years. He's like, I gotta take a step back. We gotta do what we gotta do with this Fuel Sports Network thing. I didn't want to waste any time, man, because it's 8:02. We got some Battlehawk stuff to talk about. My guy is here, Eddie P. Good evening to you, sir.
Hey, how are you doing? I can't believe we actually started on time. When you said it,
you should know me by now.
Well, first off, just to make sure, are we live?
Yes, we are.
Okay,
live.
We're live. Okay,
in color, baby. We are.
Well, I got to say, I'm disappointed right off the bat.
Why should you be?
Because you told me, you tricked me on to come on the show tonight.
Oh, I tricked you.
Yeah, you tricked me because you promised me a women's sandwich. You said I was You said I was gonna have a bunch of women and I was gonna be a sandwich.
And you're gonna get that because afterwards we're gonna have Girl Chat Sports.
So I gotta wait. Okay,
that's what we're doing. Yeah, okay. And then they'll have a live edition tomorrow night. So hey, shout out to the A-Team with RC and their special guest, Miss Angel Johnson. That was a good interview. I liked it. I liked it a lot and got a chance to really hear some stuff from them. And they got an awesome show. I love the fact that they are together. They were actually together this go around for their latest edition. If you haven't got a chance to check it out, you can go back, replay it after you check out this show. You can do that after the hour-long show we do with Girl Chat Sports. You go check that out later. But here, it's B-Hawk Live time. All right.
Their probation must have worked. Last week the A-Team went over by like 20 minutes or something like that, didn't they?
They know what the deal is.
We said tonight, ladies, we need it tight.
They know what the deal was. They got out on time and everything. I love them both. What's going to make me mad is I want to go and kick it with them, but I got business to do. I said I was going to do the show, and here we are. I got a whole hour to do it. They said we were done 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to see the women. Okay, you say what you want. That's cool. But what I do know is that the Battlehawks put a nice good old whipping on those DC defenders. And guess what? For the first time, probably because nobody's done it on the show, we got some highlights for you. Here's how it went down.
Pressure comes. McCarron toward the end zone for Butler. And a touchdown. Inside of 20 seconds to go. Quick release. It's Kelvin Harmon. Tries to make a man miss. And a step forward. Harmon's got a touchdown. A 1-1 has the football in the hands of A.J. McCarron. Down the sideline for Butler. To high point it. And break free. Hakeem Butler. Looking back at 80 yards to the house. For the Battlehawks. Wilkins pulls it. Bradley blocking at the edge, and Wilkins reaches out. Touchdown. Everything coming up, Battlehawks.
Final score 45-12. 45-12, and Carl was surely, definitely the law this past week. What were your thoughts on it, on the win this week?
I was pretty excited about the win. I mean, leaving after the game was over last Sunday, I was like, and doesn't it feel good? But then I got to kind of crunching the numbers, and I've kind of seen a couple things that kind of is alarming about the Battlehawks the last 2 weeks. If you take the first and the fourth quarters of their last 2 weeks against Memphis and DC, they've scored 68 points in the first and fourth quarters. You know what they've scored in the second and the third quarter? They scored 9 points.
9?
They scored 9 points total in the second and third quarters the last 2 weeks. And then defensively, the Achilles heel for the Battlehawks. You know, the Battlehawks have got off to a quick start in the first quarter of the last 2 weeks, for scoring 17 points against Memphis in the first quarter and then 14 against DC. But in the second quarter, the last 2 weeks, they've given up 23 points. I mean, you look at out of the 29 points, 23 of those have come in the second quarter. So is it a matter of they finally got the concept down this year to start fast, put the pedal to the metal, and not be conservative? Yeah, they have, because they're starting fast. But then once they get the lead, is Gronkowski starting to reel them back in the second quarter and go conservative and letting the other team get back in?
I don't know, because I looked at the stats, and average yards per play was 5.3, which is a good sign, because, when you're on first down, you got to at least get 5 yards to continue to have some progress, when you're moving the ball down the field, man. So at this rate, that's a plus. That is a huge plus. You know what I mean? And so they had 13 first downs. I get it, the amount of yards, it wasn't the best, but that's because the defense. The defense did a phenomenal job this week on Jordan Ta'amu, getting 3 interceptions and a couple of sacks. So I know I got a chance to be for the recording of Player Perspective with Big Ham and Dre. And Dre talked. Make sure y'all tune in on tomorrow night when it drops at 10 o'clock here on Field Sports Network. But they touched a little bit about that game, and DeAndre was kind of talking a little bit about how the game didn't look like what you saw on TV. If you remember and you recall, in the first half, it was 17-12. I was very upset how that first half ended. It should have never got to 17-12 at all. It should have been 17-3 or 17-0, but they let them claw back into the game.
Yeah, I got to say, I was at halftime, I wasn't feeling very good, because as much as they dominated that first half, they've done a lot of right things, because the last 2 games they've pitched a shutout. The defense has pitched a shutout in the second half. I know I mentioned that on Monday night. But I did, as much as their coaching staff must be doing an outstanding job at halftime, making adjustments, because, like I said, 2 shutouts the last 2 weeks in the second half, so kudos to them. But when at the end of that first half, when there was a little over a minute left, and I know that St. Louis had 4th down, they kind of got a little greedy, didn't they? I mean, they could have punted the ball and made them go the length of the field. Instead, they went for it on 4th and 3 or whatever. Yeah, didn't get it. And then, boom, the DC got within 5 by halftime. And I tell you what, I was like, for a total domination of the first half, we got a 5-point lead. And I was not feeling good at halftime. I know that.
No. Not at all, because you let them back into the game. You gave them good field position, and that's something that you can't do, especially when you're trying to beat DC for the first time, in spring football between the 2 teams. Because at the time, they were 0-3 leading up to this point. Hadn't won in Audi Field, and then they turned it up in the second half, and they got 28 more points to go upside their heads, and they wind up spanking 45-12. Even Manny Wilkins got in on the action with the touchdown, if you got a chance to see it in the highlight. It was good to see that. It's going to be interesting to see how, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but just in case AJ does go down with some apparent injury, I think Manny Wilkins can do the job in the interim. If it gets that way, I'm not trying to put any juju on on AJ McCarron, but I'm saying you had to look at it. And when he got into the game, Manny looks like he knows what he can do. He used his legs. He got a touchdown in it. And one of the things that was pointed out was the point situation. Now, if they're staying in a tie, which it won't happen when it gets to the chance, probably not. There's a good chance it won't. But if it does get to the point where points are played in that factor, St. Louis can, doing a good job with the 45-point effort they had against DC.
Well, I feel very comfortable with the quarterback situation because, like you said, Manny Wilkins can do the job. But even at that, they still have another option. Silvers is no slouch himself.
Right.
But, so when you look at the fact that we're toe-to-toe with San Antonio right now with both having one loss, I like our quarterback room a lot better than theirs right now because they're like one injury to Normandy away from, then who do they turn to? So, I think depth-wise at quarterback, we're looking pretty good at this point in the season for sure. Of course, the offensive line really has stepped up, so that's made a huge difference, keeping AJ upright.
Understood. Yeah, that's something that, got a chance to check out. You see the stats below, 14 of 24 for AJ, 213 and 2 touchdowns. And it was a good sign to see the running game where it got close to 100 yards. Jacob Saylor's leading the way with 52 yards and a touchdown. And of course, Rain Gallman had 31 yards and a touchdown himself. But of course, the big day came from Hakeem No Hands Butler as a certain individual host that used to be a part of this program would mention. He had 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. Of course, that 80-yard scamper was huge.
Do you think that had a little bit to do? Doesn't it seem like it's almost like Hakeem Butler's playing mad this year? He's all about intensity, and every time he scores a touchdown, he looks like I almost think he's read Dirty's headlines a few times, and he's just tired of hearing about the No Hands Butler thing.
And that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, is it really been that big a case? Because here's the thing. When he was with Pittsburgh, they were already making jokes about the fact that he couldn't catch Kenny Pickett. So that was you got to play mean. You have to play like you're the best player out on the field. And I know some people, felt like he was very cocky. That was out there. But you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in your talent. You're 6'6", and believing that some team is going to look at you and believing that you're going to be an asset to a system. But again, it goes back to saying, Eddie P, is that, listen, these are the teams that's out there, system, they have a different system in these different teams. And if you don't fit their system, they're not going to play you. You got to fit. If you don't fit, I can't say you must have quit because
that's the same thing I was thinking. So go ahead and say it.
You don't fit, you must have quit. You know what I mean? You gotta let them
go.
Well,
but what added though too is I still think he had a good chance to make the Steelers roster because if you remember, they basically had nobody at wide receiver. Exactly. But he had an injury. He had an injury, poor timing in training camp, and I think that ultimately is what did him in. But to me, Sunday, he looked like a man amongst boys. And I just got to think that he's getting another shot this offseason because if he continues on the way he's playing now, it's,
Yeah, and when he was high-stepping, he was looking back.
So the question is, did DC make a commitment to take JPZ out of the game, and that allowed Butler to get more one-on-one coverage that he was able to burn?
It's
because JP, he only had 3 receptions, JPZ did. So it wasn't like he tore it up.
And not to mention the fact that Marcel Aitman, who, started at the beginning of the season, was getting targets, only had 1 reception himself.
Yeah, so, I'm a big fan of Aitman. He was my first. He was my first pick in my fantasy draft last year for the XFL. But the way he started, he was engaged. I mean, he come off the field and he's slapping hands, and you could tell he was engaged. I guess what I'm afraid of now is if it becomes the Butler Pearson show, is Aitman going to kind of start losing interest? I hope not, but I know when you have that much talent out there on the field, it's hard to share the wealth, but you almost got to keep everybody involved. So I'm a little worried about the Aitman aspect right now.
But it goes back to stating about the receiver room. Blake Jackson was returning kicks on Sunday. Of course, Jacour Pearson. They just added Mitchell back to the mix, from last season. Of course, you got Hakeem Butler. So you got plenty of receivers out there, and it's kind of hard, especially when you're in a league, Ed, where kickoffs mean much more than it did in the past, or it means more in this league than it does in the No Fun League. So you look at it, when you look at the total yards in the game itself, it just gives that notion that 200 yards is probably where you're going to be located, where you're going to be at for a passing team. Okay. You're not going to see 300, 400, 500 yards. You're not going to see what like Birmingham does per week, and that's what's going to be the thing, is how when starting field position is always key. If you're starting at the 30 and 40 and 50 yard lines, you got a short field to work with, an easier chance to score, but you're not going to get a lot of yards out of it.
Yeah, I was worried not having Shepard returning kicks until Blake Jackson started off the first kick return past midfield, and then I thought, yeah, probably can slow my roll a little bit because it looks like Blake is going to do just fine. But that's probably my biggest complaint with this league this year is the kickoff rule. I think that in the game of football, they always say there's 3 phases to the game, but to me, offense and defense are an overwhelming 1 and 2, and special teams can make or break you. To me, they're putting way too much emphasis on special teams this year, because with that kickoff, it is putting so much pressure on defense, because what was the kickers? They were like 20 for 20 or 21 for 21, over 50 yards. So figure that out. The average return in the kickoff, if I was a bet man, I would say easily over the 40-yard line is the average starting position for these teams. If you have a good kickoff coverage, you may be holding between the 32 and 35, but for the most part, it's either the 40 to midfield, it seems like, every time they return a kick. Well, with these kickers, the way they're kicking and the efficiency, you get 1 or 2 first downs, you're already in field goal range. And I mean, the defense doesn't even have a chance to get heated up, and they're already, in danger of giving it up. You got the DC was playing Birmingham, and it was a defensive struggle. Well, at the end of the game, it turned into a pinball machine of field goals, because every time they kicked off, one team brought it up to the 40, 45. I think the next return was past midfield. So, I mean, they're sitting there trading threes at the end of the game, and it's all because of special teams. And I'm like, is that really what we want the game to turn into, is who has the best kick returner at the end of the game? Because there's a lot of games where field goals are being kicked galore at the end. Is that really what we want? I mean,
when you really look at it with how the UFL and modern spring football is, they want more scoring. They want it fast. You know what I mean? And I know I'm sitting here going on a soapbox about how the yardage is nowhere near close to what you see in the NFL, is because of how, like you said, the special teams, it can make or break you. getting to midfield very easily is something that the league wanted, because they wanted more high-profile plays. They want to see more excitement with special teams. They didn't want to make it as a low-rated type of, I guess, aspect, because people look at special teams like it's nothing. Unless you were Devin Hester, that's the only way you could look at special teams, or Dante Hall when he played. They said, well, that's why they made such a big emphasis on how kickoffs were going to be in the UFL.
But wasn't it ironic? Wasn't it ironic though that the minute the UFL makes the change to the USFL rule of kickoff, then the NFL comes in and says, "Oh, we're going to take the XFL's rule. We like that. We like that one a lot better." So I mean, it's like wait a minute. I mean, we can't. It's too late. We can't change now. They basically ganked the XFL kickoff rule right out from underneath us last minute.
Exactly. But the title of this episode is Best Team in the XFL Conference. Is this Battlehawks team the best in the conference? And right now, you have to say, I mean, it's going to sound biased, but yeah, you have to. Same quarterback, same running backs, same receivers. Fortunately, haven't had much injury issues where it has cost them games. I get it. The very first game, it was just seeing what that team could do together. If they win that game, we're talking about 2 undefeated teams going into week 6, because they lost a close one to Michigan, in the game that we both attended, we sat at that game against Memphis, and he was talking about the whole thing with the midfield situation, like two first downs, and you in field goal range.
So if this is the edition of who's the best in the XFL division, let's do like they do on the NFL pregame shows. You got the quarterback, running back, wide receiver.
Oh, you want to do fantasy?
And we'll do the check marks of which. We'll put San Antonio on one side. We'll put the Battlehawks on the other side. Let's go through quarterback, running backs, wide receivers. We'll do defensive line, cornerbacks. Let's just kind of do a comparison, and we'll put a check mark. And we'll see who ends up with the most check marks.
So guess what? We're going to take a little break then, and then when we come back,
I'll get the little thing put together here. By the time you get back, I'll be ready to go.
Give us 2 minutes, and we'll be right back with more of B-Hawk Live right here on Fuel Sports Network. Welcome back. Welcome back to this edition of B-Hawk Live. I had to get into coach mode now, sir. Now I have to go and utilize my headset because we're in coach mode.
I didn't know if that thing still worked the way you threw it before the show started.
This is B-Hawk Live. We are broadcasting from the Fuel Studios, of course, sponsored by Wild Sun Winery and Brewing Company. One thing is for sure, though, as we put this team together, we putting together San Antonio, who's we saying is the St. Louis. We talking about the best team in the XFL conference, in San Antonio, and putting them together, matching them up, and seeing who's the better of the two. Now, it's going to be interesting because that running back position, because we know who it is at quarterback right now. As we sit, AJ McCarron is going to be better than Quentin Dormady in this case. AJ, Quentin Dormady. Sorry, it's going to be AJ.
Yeah. You got to give the check mark to definitely to AJ. There's not even a question there.
At running back, it's a little different.
Yeah.
I like Jacob Sailors and I like Wayne Gallman, but they ain't got nothing to handle on John Lovett. Nothing.
Yeah. In fact, I think with Durant being put on IR. They're a little thin at running back, so I'd like to see the Battlehawks sign themselves a solid running back. There's got to be somebody out there that we can get.
Yeah, somebody, and hopefully sooner than later.
Yes.
Yeah, see, Sabrina understands John Lovett all day. I will pick him over any of the running backs that got in that running back room. And if Coach Beck is watching this episode, that means y'all team got work to do. You got work to do.
There has got to be, and then they go out. It was at Morgan Ellison or whatever. They go out and sign
Morgan
him.
Ellison.
Yeah, and then so he was like their fourth running back, and it's like,
and he moved up.
Dude, but it's like, we seemed to be a little thin at running back right now with Durant going down. So we need to do something to shore that up.
And they're a little stronger though at running back. But if you look at wide receiver, you look at the wide receiver room, you would have to give the edge to St. Louis. Because don't get me wrong, Brahma's got good receivers. You got Kirkland definitely leading the pack, and he's a playmaker. That is something that has always been in the works, especially with how AJ Smith works with his receivers. You know what I mean? So that room, of course, you got Cody Latimer at tight end. You can almost make the argument that is better than St. Louis if you put him at the tight end position. But if you put him at the wide receiver position, because he can play both. You got to get an edge to the receiver core in St. Louis. Keem Butler, Ja'Cory Pearson, Blake Jackson, Stephen Mitchell, Aitman,
Shepard. But here's part of that when you're weighing wide receiving core. San Antonio, I've heard them on several of their shows say that they feel like they got the best wide receivers in the league. But part of what you got to take into account with the wide receiving core is how deep is it? How many injuries? How many injuries can you sustain before you're pretty thin? Well, you look at the Battlehawks wide receiving core, and you take the top 2 or 3 receivers from San Antonio. Yeah, can they hang? Yeah. But the minute one of those guys goes down, as we've seen with Kirkland when he was with Houston last year, he went down midseason. Houston never recovered.
No, they had
their offense was not the same, and so I wonder what I worry about with San Antonio. Of course, I'm not worrying about it, but I don't hope that it happens either, because I want to see the best of the best playing every week. So
exactly.
I don't want any injuries to happen, but it's if injuries do occur, which team can sustain itself and keep going? I think St. Louis clearly has the deeper wide receiver room.
If you look at it from a I guess from a tight end perspective, you got to look at it for Springer and Cody is better because the Battlehawks barely use Jay Sutherland.
Yeah. So when you talk about tight ends, yeah, pure tight end performance, you have to give it to Cody Latimer. I mean, he was on my team again last year, and he was a stud.
Right.
But Sutherland, the Battlehawks are obviously using him in a different way. They lose him. They let him go out into the flat, or they release him maybe 1, 2, 3 times a game. He is wide open because the defense doesn't account for him. So he's the perfect weapon to have at those time of the games where you need a big play or you need an extra point or whatever. He is perfect for that. But as far as game flow goes from first quarter to fourth quarter, yeah, you can't argue with Cody Latimer. So right now, after quarterbacks, running backs, wide receiver, and tight ends, it's 2-2.
It is 2-2.
Okay, so let's flip over. Let's flip over to the. Well, should we do offensive line?
Sure, we can do that. I think we can.
Let's do offensive line because, after the first week, I would have definitely said, "Ooh, that's an Achilles heel for the back." But I would say in the last couple weeks, they're starting to gel. I think, and we're not, there's a thing to be said for a running game. We are more built as a team that spreads the field, works the open areas, and about the time the defense gets spread out, then we start hitting the run game in the second half. In the second half, our running game is way more effective than it is the first half. Whereas at San Antonio, they're ground and pound, baby, from the first quarter on. So, offensive line wise, what's your vote, A-Train?
It's hard because St. Louis's line has had a great amount of penalties. The Brahmas, not so much.
No, Jay, I agree. I agree with the other teams that you're putting up there, and Brett's even made a couple comments too about other teams. But we are strictly talking San Antonio against St. Louis, both 4-1 in the XFL conference. This is what this discussion is. So
Kevin says even. He thinks both lines are even.
I'm willing to go with that if you are. That puts it in a total tie heading into the defense.
I will say that line has been shaky for San Antonio too. It just seemed like it's happening on a different perspective. It's going like this each time. So you don't know if they're going to stay together, they're going to get false starts and whatnot. So they kind of have been on the same realm. So we're going to say they're both even.
Okay.
I'm agree with
that. So we're sitting there at 2.5 to 2.5.
Correct. We had
I will say for tight end though, I do think that Sutherland could be a lot bigger piece of the game if he was built more into the offense. I think there's a lot of seam routes that I think a guy of his size, just like Cody Latimer's a big guy, so is Sutherland. Sutherland may not be as fast as Cody Latimer, but I think that, but then again, if you do that, do you put the offensive line at risk? So maybe they got the right combination right now that they're more than happy with the role he's playing. So,
okay, let's go with the
let's go with defensive line.
Okay, the lines. Okay, we're gonna go with the lines. Woo. Okay.
I think
my
that
thing with this.
Yeah, go ahead.
St. Louis looks really good lately on defense, but there's been you could say a consistency going on with San Antonio. All right, they've held opponents under 20 points, especially in the last 2 weeks, for sure. Right, 9 points held by Michigan, and then of course last week they held Luis Perez to 15. Your favorite quarterback, to 15 points. So, but if you look at it from St. Louis's standpoint, Travis Feeney has been doing well, and then Peter has been doing well on that side of the ball. Peter had a couple of sacks this past week. He had the 2 sacks for the game. So
we need the tackle. We need the defensive tackle position to exert themselves a little bit more. But Travis Feeney and Peta, they're a pretty damn good combo. In week one, Travis Feeney was, I believe, if I'm right, Travis Feeney didn't start in week one. He was the backup to Peta.
Correct.
And to me, it's almost to where you got to have both those guys on the field at the same time now, because they're sack artists almost. That's right. And I think that's a good job of. It's called halftime adjustments. And
they do it. And they surely do it.
They evidently are doing the halftime adjustments because they come out in the second half and they've been very stingy. They've made me feel a lot more easy than I do during the halftime.
But it just seems like now they're all like, let's see. If we're looking at it from division opponents, they're undefeated, right? Yes. They're undefeated against their divisional opponents, all right? They have beaten DC and they've beaten Arlington, right? And they've beaten Memphis. They've beaten what's the other win that they had? Oh, I'm sorry. They're 3-0. San Antonio. They're 1-1 against the USFL.
Yep.
So
and then 64-yard field goal away from being 5-0 right away. Right.
So they have
right along with Birmingham.
They've beaten their division opponents.
Yeah.
They've beaten each of their division opponents.
They're definitely in the catbird seat right now. That's for sure.
Exactly. And right now they hold the tiebreaker between them and San Antonio. So if we're looking at it from a front seven standpoint, I'm gonna have to give the edge to.
Well, we're not. No. We're only going defensive line.
We're just doing
defensive line.
All right.
Because I got the linebackers are next.
I'm gonna have to go with. I gotta go with St. Louis, man. I got to.
Yeah, I do too.
They've been playing lights out in the second half, really good, man. And I know Arlington has scored. They scored on San Antonio last week, so I'm going by that. And they have gotten better each week. And if you want to say San Antonio's been somewhat consistent, okay.
I'm sure if we had someone from Texas talking football on here, they would disagree with that decision.
Oh, wholeheartely.
But this ain't Texans talking football. This is Texans versus Missourians. So
yeah,
I'm giving it to the Battlehawks. The linebacker, go ahead.
This comment, the only reason that's the truth is because of a kick. That's the only reason.
That's a kick. That's a kick.
It was a kick. He said, "Bet
so."
The Campbell.
To me, this next category is not even close. You got the Iowa State connection that is just tearing it up. You got Harvey and Mike Rose. Mike Rose started off the first game, I think, and then he got hurt because he missed. He missed the second week, I know. I don't know if he missed the third game or not. He might have missed 2 games. But the last 2 games of Mike Rose, here's the last game for Mike Rose. Mike Rose, 11 tackles, had an interception.
Yeah.
And if that ain't anchoring the week before that, when Mike Rose was hurt, Harvey had 12 tackles, I think. So it's like when you got a linebacking core that eats like that, how do you say that?
I don't know, man. I'm looking at even, because you cannot sit here and deny Tavante Beckett. You can't deny Jordan Williams, and you surely cannot deny Delonte Scott. Their linebacker core is just as good as that Battlehawk linebacker core. I mean, they're getting better. The Battlehawks linebacker is getting better, but I have to give the edge to San Antonio on the linebacker core. I have to.
You do?
I'm
Are you
giving
serious?
Yes. I'm serious.
I mean,
Because they have been consistent all year long. That linebacker core.
yeah,
St. Louis but the St. Louis linebacker core has gotten better.
why have they gotten better? Because Mike Rose is back. You're talking injury
Okay.
that caused the linebacking core. So I'm going to give it a tie at the very, okay. I'm not going to be a live show homer like I can name a bunch of shows that are homers, but not here on B-Hawk Live. We're not homers. So we'll go ahead and we'll call it a tie because if you take San Antonio, I take St. Louis, that's a wash.
That's even. That is even.
Okay, so now we're going to go defensive backs where I'm going to have to I'm going to have to give the nod to San Antonio on defense. Yeah.
Oh, see, but here's the thing, though. Okay. If we've seen as of late, there have been 4 players that have done amazingly well. We forgot about Carson Wells for St. Louis. We forgot about him. But for St. Louis, you're looking at a core of Quinterio Cole, Chris Payton-Jones, who's Brandon Sebastian. You're looking at Cam Kelly and Lavert Hill. You know what I mean? They all have done well in that secondary for St. Louis. And I know, are we looking at even again? They are
doing better.
Are we looking at even again?
They are doing better, I will say. And their free safety, Cole, he had 8 tackles.
Yeah.
So
he's been playing out of his mind, man. So
yeah, he's been a ball hawk. He was against DC. He was although when you see your secondary up there in tackle totals, that's not always a good thing either. That means that means the guy with the ball is getting past the guys in the front and getting to the guys in the back. So that's not always a good thing.
But they're making plays, and like we stated here, the last couple of games, man, they haven't allowed their division opponents to score, or they haven't allowed their last 2 opponents to score in the second half.
But as as we say that, I will say that when the Battlehawks played San Antonio, their DBs definitely didn't stand up to the wide receiving core.
No,
so
they had a hard time.
They
had a hard time. Yeah,
I feel you. I feel you, A-Train. We'll go with a tie there. Okay, but the last category to me
should be pretty easy.
Isn't even going to be a discussion. Special teams. Be
pretty easy.
Special teams, I say, I don't care whether Shepard's definitely the dog back there for sure. But when I saw Pearson returning punts and I saw Jackson returning kickoffs, especially that opening kickoff against DC, I'm like, we're deep on special teams too.
And not to mention Sterling Hoffrichter, he can throw the ball if he needs to on a trick play. I still haven't forgotten, folks. I still ain't forgotten.
So we're in agreement.
St. Louis.
So we're in agreement there.
And then
that
means has been good too.
So that means the total is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 for St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 1, 2, 3.5 for San Antonio. So
right now we're saying that St. Louis is the best team in the XFL conference.
Yep. And again, is it 5.5 to 3.5 starters versus starters? No, but I think in a couple of these categories, it's the depth that allows us to say, yeah, we got this. And
good evening.
So as we talk about, what are the top moves? Okay, put your coach's hat on now. We're getting ready for the stretch run. What holes need to be filled going forward? What moves can we make that will help us down the stretch? if we can agree that quarterback, they're sitting perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Wide receiver, they're sitting perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Linebacker core.
It's better. It's on the rise.
It's on the rise. Special teams, they're sitting okay there too. I would like to see our kicker be able to kick the ball deeper on the kickoffs. Because I think we're giving way too generous starting position to the other teams. Yeah. I wish we could start them at the 30-35 versus always being the 40 to 45. But
remember, they starting them at the 25 to kick.
Yeah.
So yeah, it leads to that.
Oh, and then against DC, there was like 2 kicks in a row that he kicked. The first one should have been, the one would have been out of bounds if the DC guy wouldn't have got happy feet and decided he wanted to grab it and go. The second one was way out of bounds. And when you kick it out of bounds on the kickoff, you give the team the ball at midfield.
Yeah.
That is a dagger.
But
I almost said, let me go in there and kick. Yeah, let me go in there and kick.
Yeah. That was an XFL rule. If you kick it out of bounds on the kickoff, you get great field position. So
yeah. So what would you say, Train? If you had to do 2 to 3 moves right now, what would they be?
I would need another running back, and I think tight end is fine because they're using him more. They're using them as blockers more than they're using them as receivers. And I think O-line, let's make sure that they can stand still because they've been dropping like flies too, and they've been getting penalized a lot. So, see, I agree with this, Chris.
I would say offensive lineman for depth because they got hit with the injury bug. They were close to having to make the tight end slide over and play a offensive line, So I would say something to solidify the offensive line. Mm-hmm. They need another running back for depth. Tight end, I'm willing to roll with what we got because I think the way they've got them incorporated into the offense is the way they want them incorporated because Sutherland, obviously they brought him back again this year, so they're perfectly happy with what Sutherland brings to the table.
Right.
So I would say that's okay. But okay, so offensive lineman, running back, I think you got to find another defensive tackle. You still need that big guy in the middle that's a run stopper. And I'm still not sure that we have found that, that Coach Beck said that at the end of last year. What was the one thing he wanted to do? He wanted to beef up at defensive tackle and get more girth and be able to have the quickness to stop the run. And I'm not sure that they've got that with their interior defensive line right now. And then you could always use if there's someone out there they can grab to improve the cornerback position, if nothing else for depth, I would go that route. So I would have potentially 4 moves to make.
All right. Well, let's take one more final time out before we wrap up. We got about 15 minutes before the next show drops. So we're going to take this final break and we're going to come back and give picks and stuff for the next week. We'll see what happens. You checking in with B-Hawk Live with the A-Train and Eddie P right here on Fuel Sports Network. We'll be right back.
In the house.
We're back with the final 10, 14, 15 minutes left of the show, B-Hawk Live. I am the A-Train Arlington Lane. That is Eddie P. right there.
In the flesh.
In the flesh and blood.
In the flesh.
All right. We got.
Who knows? I might be wearing a Predator helmet by the time the weekend's over. Big Daddy Predator.
Hey, so this week they got the Roughnecks. Listen, Roughnecks got a good defense. I know they've had hard times in the last couple of weeks. They got a win against Arlington, of course, but they also fell really bad to the Birmingham Stallions, right? And the thing is, they just haven't found a way to bring everything together. I know the ladies had Coach Johnson's wife on the show prior to us, and I love CJ Johnson, but it's just like, man, they cannot find the ways to bring it all together. And from a Battlehawk standpoint, you hope that doesn't happen. You hope they don't mesh and it continues to unravel. But that is the main thing here. Any given week, there could be an upset. Granted, this time this team is at home, and I'm talking about the Battlehawks, and they need the crowd to be there. Same way that was what it was for Memphis. Granted, it was 31,000, but apparently the false starts happened with the 31,000 that showed up. Me and Ed were there. We got to see that live. So,
before I say anything, I got to agree. I got to comment on Sabrina's. She asked me if my boy Kevin Atkins played in the DC game. I was looking for him. I was looking for him. And I saw number 90. I saw number 90 on the defensive line. And I thought, there he is. No, that's not him. So my guess is, and no, I don't think he played at all. I don't think he was probably ready. They signed him pretty close to the game. So I'm sure you'll be seeing him this week. But what I would say about this weekend's game is I say this has got trap game written all over it.
Right. Don't
this
overlook
got
them.
Trap game written all over it because everybody's waiting for that Week 7 Birmingham game. And somehow or another, the coaches got to keep the players from thinking about Week 7 and be focused on Week 6. And
exactly.
What's our Achilles heel on defense? Stopping the run.
You got a guy that you got to stop.
There's a guy Houston's got that's going to run it down your throat. If you can't stop him, they're just going to keep feeding the ball to him. And so, St. Louis is known for starting fast. They got to start fast again, make Houston not be able to run the ball and have them, have to go to the air to catch up. Otherwise, if they keep it close, this game scares me.
Exactly. And it's going to be about stopping the run. It's also going to be about limiting Reed Sinnett. Because Reed Sinnett is not a bad quarterback. The thing is, you just got to rattle him a bit. Got to rattle him. And if you don't, they could be big days because they got receivers, man. I know people don't look at it, but they do. Kiki Chisholm and Justin Hill, they are pretty good wideouts that can make plays if you give them the ball. Last week, they accounted for, 17 receptions together? So you got to stop them.
But again, if in my second life, and hopefully I don't come back as like a mosquito or something that only lives like 2 days and then they die. That'll be my luck.
You get smacked
I want to come back as a dinosaur so I can live like 700 years. But when I come back my second life, I am going to be a scheduler because I ain't going to need any college. I ain't going to need any expertise other than to say, okay, when do the Cardinals play? When do the Blues play? When do the STL soccer team play? And put it all on. Just put it all on the table and say, okay, let's schedule these games. It's going to take me like 15 minutes, and I'll have the whole season scheduled. But these ding-dongs, they keep scheduling these games to where we go head-to-head with the Cardinals, who, if you're a Cardinals fan, Don't matter whether they win one game or whether they win 160 games. They keep going to the game like mummies. And so the Cardinals are going to draw 35 or 40,000 no matter what, because that is the social thing to do. When do the Cardinals play at home? And I'm scheduler. There you go. Kung Pao scheduler. That's what I am. But anyway, so again, this weekend, I'm pretty sure the Cardinals play head-to-head with the Battlehawks.
Sure will.
And I think someone even said that St. Louis City has a soccer game too on Saturday. And then there's a major walk or something like that going on in downtown St. Louis. So everybody going to the game on Saturday, just know, especially the tailgate lots, the one lot that's already closed. But keep in mind that they're going to be closing a bunch of streets in downtown St. Louis for this big walk. Man. And so when people come downtown, allow yourself plenty of time and all the more reason to be tailgating bright and early and beating the traffic, because once they start closing streets, it's going to be a cluster. It's going to be a cluster downtown.
It's going to be a true cluster.
It's going to be a cluster. And I won't finish out what I normally say, but cluster is a good description.
Yep. So all three teams are in action this weekend. So and it would be that they head-to-head against each other, meaning the Cardinals and the Battlehawks.
And you got 81 home games, 82 home games for the Cardinals. I mean, you could sleepwalk to 5 or 10 of them and still be perfectly fine. You got 5 home games for the Battlehawks, St. Louis people. You can sleepwalk and bump into a Cardinals game once or twice during the summer. You got 5 games for the Battlehawks. Come on, guys. It's not that difficult. Gee, Christmas. Where it's like you got a big group of 35,000. Where do the Cardinals play? Oh, the Cardinals. Point me in the direction of the Cardinals. Doesn't even matter whether they win or lose. It's all about the social. Yeah. Having that $14 beer, whatever.
Okay, real quick before we go.
We got picks. We got picks quick.
You ready?
Yep.
All right, let's go. Birmingham at Memphis.
Birmingham.
Birmingham too. That was Dirty's pick too. Birmingham. Okay. Of course, this one, Houston and St. Louis. St. Louis.
Yep. Yeah, St. Louis.
St. Louis. Okay. That was his pick too. The next one. This ought to be interesting. This should be an interesting pick. Arlington at Michigan.
I think, you know what I think this game is? This is going to be known as the Perez Showcase for Michigan, because Michigan needs a quarterback. They're in position to make the playoffs. Perez is his MO now every year is to play for a team until they're in last place and then get traded to a contender to try and win the championship. So this is about time that Michigan is watching Perez, and they're going to trade for him. You will mark my words. Perez is going to be wearing the kitty helmet and playing in front of the litter box before the season is over.
Perez.
So who's going to – I'm taking Michigan.
Okay. Same here. I'm taking Michigan. Arlington have dropped to 0-6. That's how I'm looking at it. I'm so serious. If Michigan drops that game, they're giving life to those that's behind them. So,
Michigan's got to win. If Michigan wins this game, I think it's a wrap.
I think it's a cinch for them to get that 2 seed.
Yeah, Birmingham and Michigan will be in if that's the case.
Yep. Final one: San Antonio and DC. By the way, Dirty chose Michigan for that game.
Do I want to pick with my head, or do I want to pick with my heart?
You want to make the pick?
You need me to make an actual pick, huh?
Yeah.
I'm taking DC. It took them 3 years to finally lose a game at home. I just can't fathom that they're going to lose back to back at home. I just can't see it.
Dirty.
So I'm taking DC.
Dirty chose DC. I chose San Antonio. I chose the Brahmas to get the win this week.
Somehow or another, as bad as DC is doing on offense, I don't know what the hell happened to Ta'amu. But he's just not right. He's just not right. You know, the championship game last year, I gave him a pass because I think he was injured. He hurt his hand in the playoffs right before that game, and I think it affected him throwing the ball. But this year, I don't know what's going on, man.
I got the Brahmas. I'm choosing the Brahmas this week, and I just really think that AJ Smith and Wade Phillips get their revenge. Remember, this is the same coaching staff that lost to DC last year.
As a guy I know would say, DC with your little helmets wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger. Please help out the Battlehawks and smoke the San Antonio. And we wish no injuries upon anybody on anybody playing that game. But can I fill in the blank if I have to pick someone?
all the B-Hawk Live fans, all the Battlehawk fans are choosing. Are choosing DC to win just for that simple reason. All right, hey, big thank you, Eddie P, for joining me. You know what I'm saying? Yes, Kiala. Yes, I'm glad we were able to do B-Hawk Live tonight, and we hope that we can continue to do this. We can get sandwiched in between the girls, man, until the girls get here and whatnot. Coming up next is a replay of Girl Chat Sports. You can only catch it on Fuel Sports Network. You can only catch it there. All right, so you can check it on GatewayCitySports.com, or you can check it on the Roku TV app, or you can check it on Amazon Fire Stick. All right. So any last words before we go, sir?
Look me up at the tailgate Saturday. I'm going to have plenty of B-Hawk beer available. Come by and get your can.
Oh, you have the Battlehawk Live beer.
Oh yeah, I'll have a cooler full of B-Hawk Live beer. So come get it.
Oh, bring the books. Make sure you bring the books. Bring the books too.
That's right. Oh God, we needed to plug that. So real quick, Fill the Shelves promotion. Bring your books.
There you go.
It's going to a good cause. Inner City School needs the books to fill their shelves. So please bring them in. Bring them in. Right. Drop them off at the tailgate. It's worth a free beer at least.
Ooh, there you go. Ooh, that sounds good. I'm going to see if I can try and stop by. The game starts at 2:00. It's also going to be on, I think it's on Fox this week. So you catch the game wherever you find the UFL in your area. All right. So for just a little while, this is the A Train. That's Eddie P. We'll be back with we'll be back with another edition of B-Hawk Live. So make sure y'all stay tuned. We got some great things going around for the network. All right. We're out of here. See ya.
See you Saturday, Battlehawk fans.
Girl Chat Sports is next.